the way you would set it on the tomcat-users.xml, which will be in the configuration file. Okay. So once you have this manager GUI access, it will allow you to log in into the system. So I think there's some problem in my startup. So what I will do now, I'll just start it again. Alright, so by the time system starts, yeah, I think it's starting up now. Fine. Alright, so yeah, so a couple of things that you need to understand about circumstancing in the onset is that the English word circumstancing, like most of words in Pega, you should try to understand that with respect to the literal word meaning. So here, circumstancing means, like in English word, you would say circumstance means a particular scenario, right? So it says that on some particular scenario, how would you expect some particular rule to behave? Okay, so the intention that you need to understand here is, in a particular situation, how would a rule behave? Okay, so that is called as circumstancing. So the behavior of a rule in a particular situation, if you want a rule to behave differently in a particular situation, that is achieved using circumstancing. Okay, so circumstancing is the ability, or you can say it's a feature of a rule to behave differently in a particular situation. Right? So circumstancing is a feature of a rule to behave differently in a particular situation. So now if you take a look at this one here, so if you see here, this is the so if you see here, carefully observe the mouse here, that you have a rule 1 which is in rule set version 010101, okay, and you have the same rule in a higher version as well. But in this rule set version 010101 itself, we can have a circumstance version, which is like, you can see that state is equal to something, okay, MA. So when you do this, whenever this the context in which you're calling that particular rule happens to have state is equal to MA, then this particular rule is triggered, or that is what is executed. Okay, so what we can say is, say for example, yeah, so let me show it to you how that would behave. So I'll go into this one. So say for example, I open a particular property here. So that's something like claim amount, okay. Now in here, it's probably just, so I have this option called as, okay, So I think I'll have to first check in this one. This is on a particular branch, or say for example I open another property here. Okay, so in here, even on a property, let me open a flow rule for example. So okay. Sample rule. You see here, this option, there is an option called as specialize by circumstance. Okay, so this is exactly what is going to make a difference here with respect to the system behavior. So if I select the specialize by circumstance, you will have a couple of options for the system to behave differently based on some parameters. So let's see what are the parameters that we can use. So first one here, if you see, there's an option called as property, and if you have one property and you have a value, so the scenario which I showed you now, which is like state is equal to MA, if you give that, then whenever the state value is equal to MA, this particular property would, this particular version of the rule would be picked up. Okay, another one is a date property and a date value, which is like if you have a particular date, then on that particular, you can have a particular value. In that case, this rule would be again picked up. Okay, and another one is again date range. So you have between this date range alone, this rule would be picked up. This is particularly useful. Date range is particularly useful in retail level applications. Say, for example, you have something like an application that is supposed to give a discount based on some kind of festival, say for Christmas or New Year or Diwali or any of those seasons. You want a particular discount to be given. So you can have a separate specialized logic, business logic, only during that time frame, which is like you can have the start date and the date here. Okay, and the last one here, so you have property, you can have like one property value or a date range, and the last option that we have is called as a template. So just like if you currently, both these options give only single level properties, like so you can have one date range, okay, or you can have a single property here. And in with template, what happens is if you want to have multiple properties and then you want to arrive at a result there, so that is what you can have using a template. Okay, so using a template, we can ensure that we can have one single level, what I would say, more, you can have multiple properties and then arrive at a result there. Okay, so instead of having a single property decide how that particular rule would behave in a particular scenario, you can have multiple properties to do that. Okay, so that is what circumstance template does. So if you take a look at here, put the screenshots of all this. Let's just see how this will behave. So let me show you a circumstance template. I already have something like template or something. So this is, you have the standard circumstance templates, circumstance definition, okay, so I have something like my template here. So if you open this, So if you see here in the circumstance template, you can see the list of properties that you can use here. So you have the property here like label, and I've given another property called as application name. This is just for my reference, but you can give n number of properties here. Okay, and if you look at the definition here, this is the definition. A second, it's just opening up. So slow for some reason. Yeah. So if you see here, if label is equal to this thing, then we evaluate that particular row to be true. So basically here what is happening is it's more like a decision table. It's in fact like exactly like a decision table. So you can have an if or if condition here. Okay. And then if this particular application name value is having some particular value or not. So using a circumstance template, we can have in a circumstance template, we will define the properties, and in circumstance definition, we will have the actual logic for the properties. So when any of these conditions are true or it is met, then this particular specialized rule would be picked up by the system.
Rahul, I have one question here. In this definition, we have two combinations. Between them, it is and the next row it is or. Is it possible to have the or combination between these two label? If label is the claim or application name is this, here label and application name together have one condition. Is it possible to have or condition between the properties selected?
No, I don't think that option is available. What if you see here, say for example, see you can have something like this insert or after. So you can have label is or this thing, but you can't have this or this. You'll have to have a this and this combination alone. So that is the only option available. Even for a decision table also, you can have both these values as or conditions. You cannot have an and condition between these two.
In between them it is and condition, right? Label and application.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So that is the option that we have. And so using these multiple properties, we can then arrive at a circumstance template and a circumstance definition. Okay. So yeah.
In those properties for circumstance template, can we use like a page list property or page group properties?
See, generally you don't go for using a page list or a page group properties because you're not expecting those values to be holding up. Hold on, I will show you. Okay, we have disease list. Okay. Yep, so if you see here, yeah, generally you can't give up with this. Say as disease list, not name of disease, okay? So, yep, so let's see. Right, so if I give name of disease is flu, yeah, it allows it, but you wouldn't give that normally. The problem here being in the template you will have to specify. It allows only clipboard properties alone. It doesn't allow page list or page group by default. So if you give like you cannot give just the clipboard list or a page property here directly. So it wants it to be a specific single property.
So
So
we
it's
need to
not,
specify the index of that property so that
yeah,
like the template will know that to take this particular value.
correct. So which like voids the whole function of having a page list or page group, right? Because you won't know the index beforehand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it will be more complicated for a page group and page list thing
yeah, yeah. So
in
you should,
Reusability.
yeah, generally you don't tend to have that. It is just going to be only single properties. You don't go for a page list or a page group.
Okay.
Right. So this, a couple of options are available. Say for example here. So this is how you would have a circumstance template, and you can have circumstance definition and all this here, right? So, right. So if, say for example, right. So if you see here, if you take this particular, normally you will define the circumstance template and definition at the work pool level, and not at the specific case level, because you can tend to reuse both these options, and to ensure that you have a higher degree of reusability. Okay. Now let's see a practical use case of having this circumstancing here. Okay. Now if I were to go to this cases here, now you can have, we can ensure that we can have a kind of specialization at the case level, which is like a very valid use case. So which means that, say for this life insurance claims here, currently we can have a kind of insurance which is specific for one particular scenario, but we need to specialize that in order to meet one particular requirement. Okay, so if you open this particular life cycle, life insurance claim, so open this one here. Okay, so this is how the life insurance claim flow is. Okay, so you have, first step is collect information. So you enter personal info, collect vital stats, enter and review review details. Okay, then after which you will go to the doctor for decision whether the claim is valid, and finally you will notify and close it. Okay, so this is the general life cycle of a life insurance claim. Okay, so this has just
Rahul, the details tab has been removed, is it?
no, this is in 719. So just the details tab just comes up here. They've just shown it here on this side. So don't bother about it. I mean, it's just, they just keep changing it from year to year. I don't know, for every ML version for some weird reason. Even in 7.2.1, now this whole thing now again they came back to details here, like in 7.16. So there's some flawed product management there. They keep changing it from this side to this side, apparently for no specific reason. So don't worry, it's like even 7.2.1, it's now back to details here. So in 7.19, they just brought it to the set. Right. So yeah. So if you see here, this is the life cycle that we have for a life insurance claim. Okay. So this is already established. So this is how we will build it over the course of time for you guys on your machine. So so in order to have a specialization for this one, we have some kind of we will ensure that if it is what we can probably ensure to do is we can have a different life cycle for a different kind of claim based on some particular input. Okay, so based on some particular input, we will ensure that instead of this life cycle, we want to go for a slightly different life cycle. Okay, so to achieve that particular requirement, we can go for a specialization here. Okay, so we'll go for a case level specialization, which is a valid use case. Okay, so say for example, based on the age, which is like a valid scenario. So the age of the person who's applying for the claim is less than say 35. Okay, so we will maybe we will just do enter personal information. We won't even collect the vital stats. We will say enter and review disease details. Then here as well on the decision, we will just say to HOD for review. We will not even go to for doctor for analysis, and we will just notify. So this is basically we will just have a smaller version of the flow, just only with this step. So and like just only like 4 steps in effect. Okay. So because the chances of having a review for a person who's less than 35 years of age, there's no point having a review for that. Okay, we're going to skip all those review options there. So in order to specialize it, we will click on this particular life insurance claim here. Okay, and hold on. So we will have not on there. You can just click on actions. Over here. Not here. You click actions and you click open. So you have option color specialized by circumstance here. So this is an exercise that we will be doing now. So in this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to see how to specialize this life insurance claim for someone below a specific age, to not have to collect vital stats, to not have to go to doctor for analysis, and just directly go with the insurance claim settling if the age is less than 35. Okay, so for that what we will do, once we open this insurance claim here, we click on open. Okay, which opens a case type rule in the backend, after which we click on this one, click on specialized by circumstance. Okay, so and I say here for L claim, and for now I'll just give only property here, and then let's see if I have the sufficient property here. So under L claim, these are the properties that I have. So say for example, if I already have the information, let's see here if I have. So on this one, or even a better option is claim amount. Okay, so the claim amount is or we can just give. So generally we can give something like if the claim amount is equal to say 100,000. Okay, then we can ensure, because the minimum insurance value is 1 lakh or 100,000. So if the claim amount is this much, then we can go for an auto approval. Okay, which is also a similar use case. So there is date range. This is the for case type. We're not having a date range option. Okay, so as of now we will not give a branch for this. Okay, so here we will give a claim amount as values 100,000. Then we will try to skip some particular processing or review options there. Okay. So now what we will do, if you can see here, it says circumstance, and same claim amount is equal to this much. Right. Now, if you come back to this one, this case rule from here, designer, and you refresh this, then we should be able to see. this thing here. Okay. That is okay. So if you open this one here, second. One second, it should actually show up here. I'm just wondering what happened. So if you say view siblings here, let's check the circumstance rule that we just created. Got details here. You should have it here under the circumstance option. Does not save the circumstance to one. This process claim one claim work. This is the one that we have, and you see this is the claim case that we had. So save for example, I think it didn't save it. No, I think it didn't save it for some reason. Or even better. So this one here.
So Rahul, if you want to make it less than 1 lakh like that, where can we configure that?
So that we'll have to have a template or something that we'll have to have a template for that. Right. So I think I made a mistake here. I think I should have set a no branch. So in the template we will have the option for so okay, let's give it. Right, so we'll give it this way. Go create and open. Right, so this should have. Yep. So now what we can do inside this one. So in the backend for this particular stage here, so I think the rules are somehow not getting saved or something. Right. So even there is one more option to get around this thing. So I will show you just one more way around this. Again, an easier way to circumstance. So say for example you open this live for instance claim case type. Under this here on this right hand side you have something called a specialization. Okay, so this is also an option you can give instead of directly saving it at the case type rule form. This is also another option that is generally encouraged to do. So you can say here say claim amount. Okay, so you can give the option here, say that create specialization versions of this case type based on property value. Okay, so if I click add specialization here, or say I give claim amount, okay, and save here. Claim amount. So let's say chapter. It very clearly says how you will specialize it. Specialized version to support. Okay, so basically, you can give a single value property. Here is what they're saying. So it's not getting saved for some reason. Something's wrong with the system. Should just give it here and let's say add specialization or something additional property. Right, so I'll just say here. Yeah. So versions of case type based on property claim amount. And here this is the value. So click save. Okay, so let's check it here. Yep. So based on the property claim amount, and this is the particular value that we have. So if you click on this one, then automatically it has created a circumstanced one. And you see here claim amount is equal to 100,000. Right? But if you take a look at it here, and you should be able to see that particular option as well. Let's refresh here. Yeah. See, it says claim amount is 100,000. This is a specialized version. Right? So you click on this. So probably a better way to go about this is to just change it here directly rather than trying to specialize that particular case type rule. Okay, so on the specialization, give here whatever the property that you wanted and give the value for that. If you want to add additional specialization, you can say give like something like 200,000 here. Right? So give it here and then you click save. Right? So you again have one more version here. So if you now click on refresh case types here, so here claim amount is 100,000, claim amount is 200,000. Right? So you click on this one. So its claim amount is 100,000. So if you just let's refresh this. Right, so here we don't, we'll make sure that we remove these options. We say enter personal info and to doctor for analysis is skipped and to HOD for review and notify. That's it. Right? So if claim amount is 200,000, then we can probably have a slightly additional logic or whatever the business use cases. But primarily our intention here is just to, my intention here is just to tell you that we can have a specialized case type, and to get around that, the right approach is you open this particular rule, life insurance claim here, and then you have the specialization option, and then you give the property and then you specialize based on that. Okay. So this would ensure that we have a specialization based on that particular claim amount. Okay. So the drawback with this approach here for the case type, using this case type rule, is that we can just have only single property. If you want template, you will have to go to that particular rule and modify it there. But other than that, this is how the approach is to go for the specialization for case type. Okay. But if you have a single flow or any of that, you can have a template to go about it. Yeah.
Yeah, the claim amount actually it is collected before, is it? The details are collected during the
in
case
the card
time.
claims. Yeah, it's created before. So the way the actual flow logic is, so we will be creating this card claims. Once we enter some information here, we will be starting that L claim based on some scenario. So say, for example, this is how the actual flow would move about. So say, for example, I give data for accident someone before. So we would ensure to collect the claim amount during this car claims, this one itself. Once we collect that, only then we would start this life insurance claim. So based on that particular property value, which is claim amount, we can ensure that either this runs or this version runs. Okay.
Thank you.
And so here you see here, enter personal information, insurance details and all. So if you go to the insurance details, and that's where we will be collecting some information. So say for example, let's see here. So details about the car. So click next. See the insurance detail. Okay, I don't think we have the claim amount here. I think we must be capturing it some other information. So or else we'll capture it anyhow in these inputs. So over here we will have this option called as, if you click on actions, there's an option called as add work, and we will start this claim. Okay, so by default when you start it, we'll already have the property on this main page, and based on that we will be collecting it. Okay. Right, so that was exercise on circumstancing. Right, so now a couple of other things that you need to understand here is we're going to take a look about reusability and specialization. So if you see here, this is a good diagram on how you should go for when you should go for a circumstance, okay, or when you should even move something to a separate rule set, and when you should have something in a separate class. Okay, so say for example, whenever you create a new property, okay, or anything for any particular rule for that matter, say here, when I click on this one, or if I were to open a simple flow, say for example here, in this process, say open a simple flow here, like sample flow here. Now I will have an option here. If you see here, I can specialize by class or a rule set, or specialize by circumstance. Now you have to understand when to move something to a different class, a flow to a different class, a flow to a different, or any rule to a different rule set, or even to a certain specialization by circumstance. Now that is an important decision you will have to make based on the scenarios. Okay, so there is a thumb rule for this. This is the thumb rule for that, which means that if it is only rare cases, okay, which is like this edge case, say as I was showing you earlier, like say claim amount for say 100,000, there's just one odd case. Okay, so that one odd case we can move it as a circumstance here. Okay, so this is the edge case, like, or when you say country is equal to something, country is equal to, only for this country you want to have a different logic, then country is equal to US, which is a rare case, edge case scenario, then you can go for a circumstancing here, right? Or if you think that there is a customer specific data, then also you can go for a circumstancing based on a date range, then also you can go. Then the other thing that you have to understand is, from a security standpoint, say for example, remember in the first session over here, I think on this first session, I'd shown you that we can have security based on your based on the classes. So here, if you remember, I'd shown you that this access of role to object, every class in Pega can be given a security. So whenever you as a developer or an end user run on a particular rule for that matter, then it can check whether you have the sufficient security or authorization to run it. So if you want to move a rule to a particular class, you can move it because of a security reason. Okay, so you can put a rule in, say, a class A, which has only some people have the security over there. Otherwise, you can keep that rule in this particular other class, like class B, which is accessible to everyone. Right? So you can specialize a rule, okay, based on secure. If the reason is security, you should you should move it to a separate class. If the reason is an edge case, you should go for a circumstance. If it is about saving in a particular database table, then again you should go for a class level specialization. But if you want to deploy it on a different release, say for example, you have a release in your system coming up, say your production environment is having multiple releases in the system, like for this particular year, assuming the business wanted like 5 releases, and you can have a release month-wise, you can have a release. So all that you can give it here as a rule set. So you can have a separate rule set for each release. So you can have 01, 02, 01. You can have like for one release, so like release 1. Okay, then you can have like 01, 03, 01 as another release, like release 2. Okay, so this is what we will have as a management and deployment. Then a reusable feature set, also you can go for a rule set. When you want to reuse some particular module which is developed somewhere else, at say what a different framework level or a different team, then you can again just create a wrap of that rule set and put it in your machine. Okay, so again, if you want to reuse a particular feature, you can go for a rule set. Okay, now let me go over these points again. It's important. So if you have a case type, okay, so if you want to specialize based on a particular case type, you can generally, if you want to separate end-to-end flow, like say the scenario here in an application. So I have, if you see here, I have a car claim and a life insurance claim, which is a completely different flow. So for that, I need to have a separate classes. That is what the system automatically created for me. The system has created automatically. It has created a separate C claim, and it has created a separate L claim. So a completely different flow is what is a separate, completely different case is what is available here as C claim and L claim, which essentially gave us separate classes in the backend. So you have AIG claim, one proc work, -C claim, which is a completely different case type, and -L claim, which is a completely different class as well. Okay, so what happened now is we have a completely different case type. We can have a completely different class. Okay, so you have a class level specialization. If it is an edge case, we can go for a circumstance. For security, again we'll go for class. If you want to push it to a different database table, again you can go for class. For deployment across different versions, we can go for rule set. Reusable feature set, again you can go for a rule set here as well. If you want to have a different application or a different session, if it is a slightly odd one, we can go for a circumstance like an edge case. Otherwise, you have to go for a separate class. The customer specific data like customer name or customer priority, you can have a circumstance. Or date range also, you can have a circumstance. Okay, so here we need.
Session here, Rahul, the row 103.
The application or session. So what that does is, say on a particular session, or say for example for one application, so you can assuming that we are going to have you have by default, if you look at the class or the application structure, you have Pega at the bottommost level, Then slightly above that you may have a framework. Okay. Then even above that we may have your implementation. Okay. Now what they're trying to say is, if you want to have a different class or a separate rule or a separate specialization only for the implementation level, suppose you have a case type here in the framework, okay, and you want to specialize this case type in the implementation layer, then you need to go for a class level specialization, which means that you save as that particular case type from your framework level class to this implementation level class. So you can have, if you see here in this one, I will have AIGIFW. You see here, I have this AIGIFW proc FW work 𝐸𝐸𝐸. I have the same 𝐸𝐸𝐸 case at the framework level at a different class, and I have the same thing at my implementation level at a different class. So when I have two applications, like a framework level and an implementation application, if I want to specialize my cases, it's always preferred to go for a separate class level specialization. So I have a framework level class like this, then I have a implementation level class like this. Okay, so this is just that is what they're trying to say there. So what happens here is you have now for that you will go for whatever I told you. Now for the application level, you will go for a class specialization. Now you can have say for example a particular user session, assuming that one particular operator logs in, and for that particular operator alone we want the system to behave, a case type rule to behave slightly different. So for that situation you can have that is like a rare scenario. Say a manager logs in and he wants to execute some particular feature. So for him, maybe we will not, because it is already created by the manager, we don't need it to go for an approval cycle or something. So we can have a edge case with the circumstance saying that PX create operator or the current operator, if it is manager, then we will go for a full scale approval, like we will skip the approval cycle or something like that. So that is an edge case for this session. This is a very important concept in the long run whenever you have systems which will have a class, rule set, or a circumstance level specialization. So keep in mind that always whenever you have a particular rule, you can have either of these level specializations, any of these specializations. Okay. So this is that kind of sums up what is circumstancing and what is reusability and specialization for our application. Okay. Let me know if there are any doubts around this. If not, I want to talk to you guys about separate rule set types. I want to quickly cover that. Last time I missed to cover that. So what we have here is, say for example, I open any of this rule, open an application, and then a rule set. So under this we have the category. So here you have like three types of rule sets. So standard, component, and shared. So you just need to be aware about it. So what these rule set types would do is, say over here, so branching. The nodes, yeah, here. Yeah, this is a rule set type. Okay, so basically, like you can say 4 types, including the branched rule set. So it says a standard is a normal rule set that can contain all types of rules. Ignore just the normal one. Component is so the concept that Pega tries to tell you here is component rule set type is supposed to have a particular functionality or a specific functionality that you say the literal word meaning itself. When you say a component, or essentially you tend to, in a business term, you say it's a particular feature. Okay, so you have a particular component. So you can say here rules in a component rule set are designed and intended for reuse in multiple systems and application. So the intention here is you have some functionality or feature that works on embedded pages alone, which means that you don't create your own properties or your own features. Instead, if a data model or a structure already exists, you work on that data model. That is what they mean by embedded pages, work on embedded pages. So, which means that that particular feature, or you already have an existing data model or an existing structure, and you put your particular functionality or capability or that component on that particular model, okay, or that particular structure. So that is what the component rule set type is supposed to be. So you will have rules within the component rule set type whose functionality is to execute on an existing um, embedded page or existing structure actually. That is what component is supposed to do. And shared is supposed to be shared across multiple applications. So again, the exact opposite of that, it is going to work only on a top level pages alone. It's not going to work on anything else there. Okay, so that is about different rule set type. Again, branch rule set. So we wanted to use a branch rule set for our branching, and keep in mind branch rule sets don't have versions there. Okay, so that was it about. So with this, we cover the first module that we want. We are on track. I think couple of questions here which I will cover in the upcoming classes. Why I'm not covering this now is because once we have the data model and we start building the flow, this will get a bit more clear. Okay, so I have noted down all your questions here, so this will be covered without doubt. But I'm just holding on to that until we start building the flows. So when we start building the flows, things will become a bit more clear for you on how we have to use this work pool, class, group, and all those things here. Okay, and even with respect to these abstract classes, what are instances, why an abstract class instance makes sense or not, all those things. Okay.
Rahul, adding to that request, I have another request. If we create an application and we think it's not needed, or I want to redo from the beginning, so is it possible to completely shatter the application and clean up the application?
No, it's not possible. I can give you the right away answer. I can give you the right away answer to that. It's not possible to clean up an application. Okay. You've created it once, it's there with you. That's it.
Okay. And in 7.1.6, there is no local data source feature available for the property, is it?
Yeah, yes. I think
Okay.
it's alright.
I
We are
was
not going
doing
to use that much.
Exercise that we discussed last week that we have to do within a week. That's the CSA portion. So it looks like it is in 7.2. So I am having 7.1.6. So when I followed that
was on 7.1.9 actually. So that exercise on 7.1.9. So so you're not getting a local source. So you can actually give a configure source there. That should also work.
Okay. I couldn't see configure source button also in 7.1.6.
Sure, give me a second. Shall I make you the presenter? Is your system up?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, take a look at it. Yeah, so guys, so that's kind of summarizes today's session. So I think if you want to log off, you can log off. I will just take a couple more questions from her, and and make sure that all of you have done that exercise, because like it's a good thing that you guys are doing it. Make sure you complete that exercise. That would help us in building our application. So from the next tomorrow onwards, tomorrow we will start building the data model, and once we have the data model ready, we will start the application build. Okay. Made you the presenter, but it's taking a couple of minutes to log in.
I'm not able to see my meeting screen. I don't know.
Yeah, I can see your screen now.
Okay. There is a table list in the configuration, but there is no way to configure source for this.
No, you're looking at the wrong place. No, this is the property. Why are you looking at the property? You should be going into the data type. Yeah. Here on this product info. Yeah. No. Okay. No. Hold on. Change that. Okay. So yeah, click on yeah. No. Click over the product info again.
Okay.
No. Go to the product info. Right. Click on that. Options. It says click on view definition, shows you open that rule, add data page shows us that. Okay, hold on. Click over customer info, let's see what happens. Click over customer info and under data. Yeah. Click on that. Now click over the word customer info. No, the word customer info. Click on that. Yeah, click on that. It's not opening anything. Yeah.
It's opening this record.
Okay, so click over that property you see there. No, hold on. Move your mouse to the right. Yeah, click on that property and click on. Some configuration is wrong here. Hold on. So you have the product info. Okay, so this is 716. Can is requesting for control.
Yeah, sure.
Did you get the request? Yeah. Okay, I got it. So here. Okay, I think in 719, 716 it's not available, I think. Yeah, so what you can do is, for now, what shows you the properties now. So what a better option would be to so another class name is do this. You derive from dash. What was the property for bugs? Do you have bugs itself? BUGS itself?
Yeah.
Okay. So class already exists. Okay, I think I have to create it this way. So again, product info 1 for now. So I'll take bugs here. Yeah, so now what you do here is yeah, now what you have to do is you have to edit the data instances. Here now you can start adding those instances. So you can start adding the ID, say for example, I say ID 1, table 1, so let's say something like really that. Similarly, you can add the items here like this. Yeah. Right. So yeah. So this is so now keep this as a reference. So keep this as the page reference. It's our data on product info, and then just try it. Okay.
Thank you so much, Rahul.
Yeah. All right. Good day then. Thank you.
Have a good day.